What's going on, everyone? So, two players in particular, Klay Thompson as well as Gary Trent Jr., both chose other teams besides the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, there's DeMar DeRozan as well, but DeMar DeRozan, he got his bag. He wanted the money, didn't really necessarily want the Lakers. Where Klay Thompson, yes, the money technically is more if you equate taxes and things like that into it. It wasn't that far off. Lakers were offering him 4 years, $80 million. He took 3 years, $15 million. So it's like a $2.5 million a year difference, $3 million a year difference, somewhere in that range. But again, very comparable offer. Spurns the Lakers, goes to the Dallas Mavericks. Gary Trent Jr., right? Lakers are trying to clear up roster spots, trying to consolidate some players and free up some cap space to sign Gary Trent to a taxpayer mid-level. Not even a vet minimum, just taxpayer mid-level. And he ends up waiting. No, nothing. All right, let me go sign with the Milwaukee Bucks for the vet minimum. Same thing with Taurean Prince. You can even throw him into that reign where it's like Taurean Prince was a guy that was kind of waiting around for the Lakers. I mean, goes on Lakers Nation podcast, says, hey, I want to return to Lakers. He ends up taking less money to go to the Milwaukee Bucks too, to go play with Darvin Ham, right? But now reports are coming out that a big reason why Klay, Gary Trent Jr. in particular, why they chose the destinations that they chose was because they were promised to start with those teams. Whereas the Lakers, they weren't willing to guarantee a starting position for those guys. And now that that information has come to light, and assuming that that is really the factor, which kind of makes sense. I mean, Klay was adamant at points where it kind of seemed like he was going to the Lakers, right? And then same thing with Gary Trent. It was like, hey, Gary Trent's kind of waiting around. He wants to go to Lakers, kind of use the Lakers spotlight. So I do buy that big factor was probably them going and taking the job so that way they could start. Because if you look at a team like the Milwaukee Bucks, Gary Trent slots in perfectly, right? Because they were starting Dame and Malik Beasley. Now you get to take out Malik Beasley and you get to go and replace him with Gary Trent. Gives you a little better defense, gives you some form of 3-and-D. So I think that that is a great acquisition for them. And it makes sense why Gary Trent would want to go there. He's going to get probably a bigger role, bigger opportunity, bigger minutes. Klay Thompson, same thing. They already made the announcement. He's their starting 3. He's going to start as their starting small forward. Some questions about, is he going to be able to handle that? Like, one of the big reasons why he's had that significant drop is playing the 3 ball, and he's not able to defend to the level that he once was. And now you're going to have Kyrie, you're going to have Luka, and you're going to have Klay. And one of the big things and reasons why Dallas was able to get to the finals was on their defense, right? Their defense was smothering. I mean, they were putting on clinics. So what does that look like now that you have, PJ Washington, Lively, Klay, Kyrie, and Luka? Defensively, you're probably not as good. Now you might be better offensively, but is the defense going to be enough to stop everybody? I don't mind that the Lakers lost these guys due to false promises for several reasons. One, none of those guys, there were arguments to start them, and it doesn't mean that they wouldn't have started. It's very possible, depending on how the Lakers roster shapes up, if they end up making trades or not, right? If they don't make a trade, then they're definitely not starting. But if they do make a trade, and let's say they do end up trading like a D'Lo and, Rui and several other these guys, and then they end up getting shipped off, and it's like, hey, we could really use, Klay starting at the 2, or we could really use Gary Trent starting at the 2. So there is the possibility and potential that they may have started, but you don't want to guarantee something. And then what if it doesn't work, right? I mean, Gary Trent Jr., I would have loved to have Gary Trent Jr., right? I think he really can kind of get back to being that guy. He's coming off of a terrible season. His defensive rating was worse than Reeves and D'Lo's last year, right? Like, he was not the guy that he was 2 years previous, to where it was like, this is a guy that could potentially be a star. I mean, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, he led the league in 30-point games and had a great defensive rating and was looking like that real two-way guy. He was looking good. Then you started to see this decline. And my thing is that, I would have looked at him as a key rotation piece that could have came in and had some significant minutes, had a significant impact, and had a significant potential to play real minutes for the Lakers. But you shouldn't be guaranteeing things to people when who knows, right? Like, if Austin Reeves is better and you don't need a 2, because Austin Reeves is your best two, then why would you so now what? Now you're not going to start Austin Reeves because you promised Gary Trent that he would start, right? Or if Klay Thompson can't hold his own on the defensive side and your offense is not, he's not what he once was, and we're getting smacked on the defensive side of things, our offense is not as fluid because Klay Thompson isn't the Klay of old, and it's like we have to, like, we need to get Jared Vanderbilt in there. Right? Like, Klay just doesn't make, and now you got to bench Klay. Now the Lakers look, and now it's this big mess of like, oh, they benched Klay, and now is Klay happy, and now that becomes a distraction. It's just, to me, if these two guys didn't warrant guaranteed starting minutes, right? Like, again, if we needed them to, and they probably would have started several games. Guys miss time, or, a guy takes a game off and you slide somebody. Like, let's say you're starting Rui at the 3. LeBron misses the game. Okay, you slide Rui to the 4, and now Klay gets started at the 3 that game, right? Like, they would have gotten opportunity. They would have gotten moments, but I'm not going to guarantee you a starting spot if you're not the best starting player. To me, if you're a real competitor, right, and you want to prove your way, and you want to prove and show that you're this guy, then show it, right? Go into practice, bust Austin Reeves up, show them that you're the better player, right? What happened to this competitive edge? What happened to this competitive nature, right? Do you think that maybe you're in the position you're in because you expect things to be, you want this opportunity to be there? And then what happens if you don't deliver? Because what happens if Gary Trent Jr. is terrible with Milwaukee? He's going to be a vet minimum guy for the rest of his career. Where we've seen with guys like the Lakers, if he's not a starting guy and he comes off the bench, the expectations aren't as high. So now there's not as big expectations because he's not the 4th guy or the 5th guy. He's the 7th, 8th guy. So if he balls out and gives you even decent numbers, he's probably getting a better opportunity elsewhere because people are going to be like, man, he averaged, 10 and 5 with the Lakers as the 8th guy. What does he do with us as the 3rd guy? And then when you look at his past numbers, like, oh man, this guy was an 18-point a game guy, right? Maybe there is something there. Where now if he's on Milwaukee and Milwaukee's bad and he's giving you 10 points and 4 rebounds and, has the same defensive rating and he's terrible, and because he's expected to handle this, now what? Now again, yes, he's taking a gamble on himself, and you need the opportunity to do so, but if you're good enough, you're going to get it. Especially under what JJ Redick wants to run. Like, Gary Trent Jr. and Klay Thompson made perfect sense for the type of offense and just the type of players that they are. Right? So to me, it was like their best opportunity was to go to Lakers. Again, I'm not saying that they won't have success elsewhere, right? And Klay's locked up long term, so it's not so much Klay. Like, Klay he's on his last contract. I do have questions about just the type of offense that Dallas ran this past season. I don't know if Klay really fits in that, but you never know, right? He can make that adjustment. I'm sure that they could even switch up the offense. Klay could end up being balling. Like, he could end up giving you 18 a game and be a huge factor for the Dallas Mavericks, right? Gary Trent, same thing. Maybe Gary Trent gets back to being that 15, 4-4 guy, and he gets back to being a great defensive point of attack guy, and he's everything that he had and showed he could be. That's always a possibility. There's always that potential. But there's also the potential of the perspective and how much notoriety are you going to get on Milwaukee compared to other places, right? All the games, yes, in LA, all the games, LeBron and AD, they're going to get the attention. But if you have a big player, if you have a big moment, that gets highlighted. Unlike any other place, right? Like, so again, to me, it's like, okay, if I'm a player trying to raise my stock and I could be a starter on a team like Milwaukee, or I could be, say, the 7th guy, first player on the court during rotations on the Lakers with LeBron and AD and all the attention that they bring. Like, to me, I would rather have that because the attention is just going to be so much more focal point, right? Like, if I drop 30 in a game with the Lakers, that's getting a lot more attention than if I drop 40 with the Bucks. Right? It's just how it works, right? And then also fit, right? Like, what is the fit alongside playing in Milwaukee and playing with a team like the Lakers? I think Gary Trent's fit would have been better. I think he would have been more utilized for his skill sets than in Milwaukee, where it's primarily it's Dame on ball, isolating, and then Giannis picking it. Like you saw it last year, there's a lot of like their offense was very clunky. You know, they weren't this like heavy assist team. I do think Gary Trent, if he can get back to being the defensive piece, then I think he could end up earning himself a better contract, right? It's going to be the defensive side of things. But now there's a lot more pressure on you to be great defensively on a team like Milwaukee, to where you're starting and you're going up against starting units. And on top of that, you have to try to mask Dame and his terrible defense, as opposed to where if you were on the Lakers, you get to be the seventh guy. So now you're defending bench unit guys more times than not. And even if you are defending these other guys, again, you have guys like Anthony Davis back you up, Jared Vanderbilt slotted on the side of you at times, right? Like, if you can, I just don't feel like there's as much. I feel like there's more margin for error on the Lakers than with the Milwaukee Bucks, who that was their biggest problem. Now, again, Gary Trent can get back to being that legit 3-and-D guy, then he'll get paid. So it's a bigger bet, in my opinion, that Gary Trent took on himself, because it is very hard to go from a vet minimum to making $15+ million a year, and he turned down $15+ million a year. So he's taking a big bet and a big gamble, and doesn't always pay off, right? But you look at a guy like a Malik Monk. Malik Monk was in that same boat, turned down, I think, $10 million a year, right, to go take the minimum with the Lakers. His next contract after that was $13 million a year, something like that. And then now he just signed, for $17.5 million per year? Again, Lakers can give you that platform. But again, I'm okay with the Lakers losing guys by not committing to something that you shouldn't commit to, right? What happens if let's say you do bring in Gary Trent and you promise him a starting job, and you end up pulling off a trade for somebody that isn't expected, and it's just he's the better player at the 2 or the 3 or whatever, right? Now what? Now you're supposed to, sorry, buddy. Like, you don't commit, especially this early. Again, a team like Dallas committing to like they're probably done making moves. Like what other big move are they going to make that would kind of get in the way of Klay at the 3, right? Same thing with Milwaukee. Milwaukee's pretty much done making moves. I get that. Lakers, they still have a lot of moves that they can make. Not saying that they will, but they have a lot of moves that they could potentially make. And you have a lot of guys at the 2. So something to keep in mind. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree with me? Do you think yes, I'm okay with the Lakers, not forcing it and going, yeah, you get a starting position, Or do you think no, they should have committed to Klay or should have committed to Gary Trent Jr.? How do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot, so we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.